we should start right out. And the first speaker today is somebody that certainly does not need to be introduced to this audience. Bob Cabana, of course, holds one of the most responsible positions in all of the space program. We're very lucky to have a person of his ability and experience there. Let me turn the floor over to you, Bob.
Thanks, Norm. I'd like to add my good morning to the team and welcome to sunny Florida. Let's hope that this nice weather sticks around one more day and we can lure Endeavour home tomorrow after another outstanding mission. I sincerely appreciate this opportunity to address the panel, but I have to tell you, it's weighed heavily on my mind. I can normally sleep anywhere, anytime. You can ask Leroy. I've slept under catapults on aircraft carriers. I could easily sleep the night before launch. Heck, I even took a nap out on the launch pad during one of the long holds. But I woke up this morning early and I couldn't get back to sleep because I was weighing the importance of what this panel is trying to do for U.S. human spaceflight capability, and I wanted to make sure that I was able to convey the right words to you. But given the qualifications of the panel and having listened to some of your deliberations, I have every confidence that you're going to deliver a quality set of options to our leaders to act upon. But I certainly don't envy the task that you have. It really is important, and when you consider the enormity of it and the limited time that you've been given to come up with an answer, it's not easy, and I thank you for it. There's very little that I can present to this panel in 30 minutes that you don't already know. You've been bombarded with PowerPoint slides and every conceivable idea on how to get to low Earth orbit, back to the Moon and Mars. Having said that, I do think it's important that we document KSC's capabilities for the record. Before I do that, however, I'd like to share some thoughts with you. Since coming to KSC last October, I've tried to provide this team with a clear, consistent, simple message. Until directed otherwise, we have a plan to execute. We must fly the shuttle safely, complete the International Space Station, and meet our commitments to the Constellation program by delivering a quality project on time within budget. The shuttle program is going to end when we complete the International Space Station, and it will result in the loss of a significant number of jobs here at the Kennedy Space Center. The transition will be difficult, but in the end, we have a great future. We have a great future because our future program provides an integrated architecture that allows us to go anywhere, to low Earth orbit, to near Earth objects, to the Moon, to Mars, and beyond. And it supports human spaceflight not just for years, but for decades. In this time of dwindling budgets and changing requirements, I'm concerned about our future. Our nation needs a spaceflight program, a human spaceflight program, that is inspirational, attainable, and sustainable. It's critical to our future if we are to remain a world leader, and it's critical to NASA and the Kennedy Space Center. So what are we doing at the Kennedy Space Center to meet our commitment to the programs and prepare for the future? Programs come and go, but the core capabilities of the Kennedy Space Center have remained constant and continue to meet mission requirements. They include launch vehicle processing to include ground, launch, and recovery operations, spacecraft and payloads processing, and ground systems and infrastructure development. Our goal is to ensure KSC remains the premier launch complex for sending humans and payloads to space. We have the facilities, the engineering talent, and the commitment to do just that. From Apollo through shuttle and into the future, KSC facilities and personnel have adapted and provided first-class support to the resident programs, including the acquisition and management of commercial launch services for NASA missions. We have a rich history in human spaceflight at Kennedy, and you'll notice a theme throughout my presentation. The Kennedy Space Center has adapted from the past to the future to meet our agency's requirements and excel. The Vehicle Assembly Building is a one-of-a-kind national asset that is well suited for the future Constellation program. As a young midshipman at the Naval Academy, I had the honor of coming down here for the first time on a field trip with the Physics Honor Society to see Apollo 13 launch in April of 1970. The day before launch, we were given a tour of the KSC facilities. And even more than the launch, I can remember standing inside the VAB seeing Saturn V rockets being stacked up to go to the moon. It's something I'll never forget and was a tremendous motivation for me to continue a career in aerospace. Today, I can walk into that same facility and see the Ares 1X rocket being stacked to support a new generation of exploration. One of our greatest challenges is the maintenance of our aging infrastructure and facilities in light of our restrictive budgets. As one program manager put it, we can spend our money to have the best facilities in the world, but there won't be enough left to build any hardware in them. Fortunately, with the supplemental funding we received from previous hurricane damage, the VAB is in pretty good shape for right now. The Launch Control Center in Complex 39 supported Apollo, Shuttle, and is now being modified for Ares 1. The firing rooms in the LCC have been continually upgraded over the years. Firing Room 4 in the lower center currently supports the Shuttle, and Firing Room 1 on the far right of your screen has been modified to support the Ares 1X flight this October and will be further modified to support the Ares 1. You can also see a picture of the new mobile launch platform up there on the top. It's well under construction for the Ares 1. Pad 39B is being modified for the Ares 1X test flight, and the lightning protection system also supports the Ares 1. You can see the 3 lightning protection towers in the top photo with the 2 shuttles on the pad and also in the lower center. The orbiter access arm and external tank vent arms have been removed, and we're in the process of installing a stabilization system for Ares 1X. I'd like to point out that in order to keep the Constellation program on schedule, design changes to the VAB as well as the launch pads and mobile launch platforms are being made in parallel with the vehicle design. If Ares 1 is canceled, redesign changes can be made to these facilities, but there will be an impact in both cost and schedule to the replacement vehicle, and a significant investment will be lost. The Operations and Checkout Building High Bay has been fully updated in partnership with the state of Florida and Lockheed Martin to provide a world-class processing facility for the assembly and checkout of the Orion spacecraft. This facility represents a $35 million investment by the state of Florida to capture critical work for this area. Computer models that KSC developed through a Space Act agreement with the state of Florida were provided to all offerers on the Orion contract and used to determine the best flow for processing of Orion in the ONC building. The use of this simulation also provided data that was fed back into the design of the spacecraft to improve processing. As the final space station hardware is delivered to orbit, the Space Station Processing Facility, High Bay, will also become available for future work. KSC is working closely with the JSC Altair project on developing concepts for final assembly of the lunar lander here at KSC, and the SSPF is one of the facilities under consideration. The computer model used to determine the best use of the ONC building will also be used to determine the optimum flow for the processing of Altair. I put this next slide in because it covers the large range of KSC engineering capabilities, from the development of ground systems on the left to vehicle sustaining engineering and microgravity research in the center, and on to lunar surface systems development on the right. KSC engineers have participated in the design of the launch vehicle and the spacecraft to improve operability during ground processing and launch operations and to help ensure mission success. They are also partnering with other centers and are actively involved in the development of surface systems required for sustained operations on the lunar and Martian surfaces. We are closely partnering with Johnson, Marshall, Langley, and Glenn in the design and development of flight hardware that will better enable us to assume the sustaining engineering role for the vehicle here at KSC when Constellation transitions from a developmental to an operational program. KSC subsystem engineers have taken lead roles in structural loads testing and test integration for various Orion elements, in on-orbit shuttle issue resolution, in Ares modeling and simulation, as well as being assigned to serve as chair for the Ares Engineering Review Board. They have been active in the Desert Rats and other lunar simulation exercises, helping the Exploration Systems Mission Directorate and the Space Operations Mission Directorate define and develop a lunar surface communications architecture in situ resource utilization, and other capabilities. With a core of approximately 450 civil service engineers, KSC is meeting the demands of the program to develop the ground systems necessary to support a new launch vehicle and to provide the sustaining engineering for a new spacecraft. I'm not going to go into details on all our collaborations, but I'd like to point out the Space Life Sciences Laboratory in the upper left corner that was built by the state of Florida. This is a world-class biotechnology lab that is ideally suited for payloads processing for the International Space Station as a national lab. We're currently working with Space Florida to make it an anchor point for Exploration Park, shown in the lower left. This will be a research park built on KSC property, but outside our fence to improve access. It will not only support research on the International Space Station, but will also support future commercial opportunities. KSC's engineering experience in expendable launch systems has also been provided to the Commercial Orbital Transportation Services, or COTS, developers. And you can see a picture of SpaceX breaking ground with NASA and Air Force personnel on Launch Complex 40 for their Falcon 9 rocket. KSC facilitated in providing SpaceX and Orbital with excess pressure vessels and cryogenic tanks from the Santa Susana facility when it was closed. KSC is working to inspire the next generation by collaborating with numerous Florida and other state universities on applied technology projects. One example is our in situ resource utilization project, where Carnegie Mellon University developed the rover we mounted our experiments on, and the University of Hawaii integrated the lunar analog field demonstration. Our DoD collaboration is primarily with the 30th and 45th Space Wings for range operations, and with the Air Force and NRO for launch vehicle procurement. But the picture in the lower right shows a NASA launch from the White Sands Missile Range to demonstrate an autonomous flight termination system that we are now partnering with DoD on as part of the space-based range. I think we've got a lot more room for partnerships and collaboration, and we're working on it. With all that's going on at KSC right now, challenges abound. First and foremost, our challenge is to safely execute our current programs while transitioning to the new exploration program. Next, we have to sustain center facilities and infrastructure during the funding gap between programs. And finally, we have the challenge to retain critical skills post-shuttle as the exploration program ramps up. Safety in the execution of our day-to-day work is paramount. If we have another shuttle incident, the future of U.S. human spaceflight will be at risk for years. I can assure you that the shuttle workforce fully understands this situation, and in spite of the fact that layoffs loom in the future, they are dedicated to ensuring the safe and accurate processing of our vehicles. I don't have a good answer on sustaining our facilities through the gap. It's a real challenge with the existing budget. I can tell you we are working closely with the programs to identify those facilities they have firm requirements for and to divest ourselves of the rest. We've recently gone through a number of facilities reviews and are in the process of consolidating our labs and shops. As far as skill retention is concerned, we've made a real effort to shift more of our design work from contractors to our civil service workforce, so they have ownership of the project, are involved in the detailed design, and are not just serving as a contract monitor. The goal is to have a strong civil service engineering corps that has the in-house intellectual capacity to act as a smart buyer and sustain the KSC mission. We're also working closely with Brevard Workforce Development Board in supporting our contractor personnel with job counseling and retraining to help ensure they have the skills that will be required post-shuttle. This slide is really important. This workforce that we have is the most talented and dedicated workforce anywhere in the world, and it's a real privilege for me to be a member of it. In talking with the technicians and engineers processing the vehicles, I've learned that their job is not a vocation, but rather an avocation with them. They live to be part of this team and make it successful. At the peak of Apollo, KSC's workforce numbered over 25,000 contractors and civil servants. It dropped to approximately 8,500 in the 6-year gap between Apollo, Soyuz, and Shuttle. Today we have approximately 14,000, of which 2,100 are civil servants. Right now, the civil service workforce is projected to remain constant in the out years. The current budget does not support flying the shuttle beyond the end of September 2010. This is going to impact our contractor workforce. Based upon the FY09 budget and executing the current program, KSC is projected to lose 700 contractors in FY10, another 3,900 in FY11, and then grow by 500 in fiscal years 12 and 13. Unfortunately, recent budget projections now result in a delay to the lunar program, which results in a longer period of time before the workforce begins to increase. Obviously, changes to the budget or the direction provided by the programs and to the programs will change the magnitude and the timing of these impacts. That doesn't sound very heartening, but I think the key message is that in spite of the future drawdown that everyone sees coming, we have hundreds of motivated interns, co-ops, and young engineers who want to be part of this team with the hope of seeing us explore beyond low Earth orbit. The excitement of space exploration is still a huge draw. Human spaceflight still inspires. We have about 1 million guests each year at our visitor center, and folks drive far and wide for the opportunity to witness a shuttle launch firsthand. Those who can't get on site line the roads and waterways adjacent to the center. The human aspect of what we do is gripping and personal. It creates a bond between complete strangers. You cannot help but have pride in what we do as a nation when you see a shuttle launch in person. The space station is a phenomenal engineering achievement, especially when one considers that it consists of hardware built from around the world that comes together for the first time in space, and it works. In addition to the technical problems it's overcome, it's also had to overcome the cultural differences between Japan, Canada, Russia, the United States, and the European Space Agency and all its partners. It wasn't always this way. I think this picture really puts it in perspective. A lot can happen in 10 years. A little over 10 years ago, the space station hung on by one vote in Congress. Everyone said the technical challenge was too great. The design was too bad. You could never accomplish all the EVAs it required. It was over budget and behind schedule. 10 years ago, when we powered up the computers for the first time, no one was more surprised than me when they worked. A tribute to the team at JSC and the team here at KSC after the many hours we spent of multi-element integration testing in the SSPF. Look at it now, a crew of 6 on board a world-class microgravity lab and engineering test bed. It seems a shame to me that we would consider ending it in a few short years now that it's finally complete and not see it utilized to its full potential. I see the Constellation program much like the space station program 12 years ago or so. Much of what was said about space station then is being said about Constellation now. But it's amazing what can be accomplished in 10 short years when you put your mind to it. I wonder what we'll say 10 years from now when we look back. My sincere hope is that it will be much like looking back on that first space station assembly mission. That when we look back, we will have come a long way towards once again leaving low Earth orbit. KSC and the nation need a human spaceflight strategy that is inspirational, attainable, and sustainable. KSC has an extremely talented workforce and infrastructure that are national assets with a proven capability to adapt and deliver mission success. We are a world leader, and part of what it means to be a world leader is to be a world leader in space. It's what's expected of us. We are at a critical juncture in our nation's human spaceflight program. The team is ready to support. More than anything right now, we need consistency and a clear path forward for the future. We cannot keep changing direction. We need to decide where we're going, properly fund it, and execute the plan. Leaders lead, and that's what we have to do. Continue to lead in space. Be a leader. And we'll only succeed in the future if we have clear direction that is properly funded. I want to thank you for your time, your attention, your service to country, and your service to America's space program. Thank you.
Bob, thank you very much for those comments. That provides a very sound basis for all we're doing. And I hope you will also thank all your folks who've handled the logistics and administrative support for our visit. It's been handled terrifically. I also special thanks to the team that's prepared material for us. We're well aware that you have other things to do than to support this committee, but you've certainly done everything we could have asked, and we thank you.
You're welcome.